everybody. Hope you're ready for a new week. It's Monday morning. And full disclosure, the thought for today's devotional comes from my wife, who's been teaching a ladies' Bible study, and she shared a verse with me that they, I guess, used at some point in that Bible study that I want to share with you because it really impressed me as to the pertinence of it today. And it surrounds a time in the history of God's people. Remember, they were split into two kingdoms at one point, Judah and Israel. And Judah was 2 tribes, and Israel was 10 tribes. And the king of Judah, one of the kings of Judah, was a guy by the name of Asa, A-S-A. Interesting guy. He is known for the most part as one of the good kings. Israel would go, or the God's people, Judah, and same for Israel, they would go up and down about how well they were living for the Lord and keeping God in their minds and in their practices. And a lot of times that was largely dependent upon the king that they had at the time. And so a couple kings before him, Asa's father and grandfather, they both, really drew God's people, Judah, away from the Lord. And they were at a point where they were participating in, the worship of false gods and some very evil, sins associated with that, prostitution, both male and female, all kinds of things that were going on. And so when Asa got in power, he set about to say, hey, we're going to serve the Lord. And he started, really taking care of things. And the people were with him. And he made them pronounce it, either you're going to follow the Lord or we're going to come get you and put you to death. Well, the scriptures talk about, that they actually wholeheartedly agreed with this. So, obviously this was a time during Asa's reign where people began to realize how important it was to keep God in their lives and prosper because of that. So I wish I could tell you that Asa ended his reign on this high note that he had begun with, but unfortunately he didn't actually do that. And when they were having some problems with wars and things like that, he was actually worried about the northern kingdom. He went into an alliance with the king of another nation that helped him guarantee a victory in this situation that was boiling between Judah and Israel, as a matter of fact, at this point. And because he relied on this alliance with another king from a false nation, so to speak, the Lord's prophet told him that, okay, for that reason, you messed up. You didn't do the right thing. So the Lord told him that you're going to have wars for the rest of your time. And there's one verse that is a statement about the relationship between the Lord and his people that kind of encompasses this idea of what Asa should have done at this point in time. And we find this in the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 16 and verse 9, okay? And this is when the Lord's prophet came to Asa to tell him, hey, you messed up here, okay? So it says this, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in the behalf of those whose heart is perfect toward him. The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong to those whose heart is perfect or directed toward him. Think about that. What is this? What was the prophet telling Asa, and what is God telling us about this? So, simple thought. You keep your mind on the Lord, and he has your back. You don't have to worry about sneak attacks. You don't have to worry about what may happen while you have your mind directed to doing and being in a relationship with God, being in a relationship with Him and doing of His good pleasure. The Bible tells us that God is in us, giving us both the desire and the ability to perform His good pleasure, His good work, His purpose for us in our lives, so that we then can have a contented life regardless of what is going on around us. You keep your eyes on God and He's going to have your back. In military terms, you know, they talk about, I've got your six. What does that mean? I've got your six. It means I've got your back. You know, if you're a pilot, you know, flying in the air, and they refer to directions like the face of the clock, and the six is what's behind you. And so when somebody says, I've got your six, you know that somebody else is watching out for what's going on behind you, so you don't have to worry about that. That's what God is telling us. He says, set your affections on things above, where Christ sits at the right hand of the throne of God. He says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. So He's telling us, I am constantly scanning the horizon and making sure that anybody that tries to attack you will not ultimately be successful as long as you have your eyes on me. Now, if we take our eyes off the Lord and we're living our lives every day with our head on the swivel, worried about this and that and everything else that may be going on in our lives, we sacrifice this, on a practical level, this promise of God. So if we just simply say, you know what, I cannot control all these things that I'm worrying about, so I'm just going to worry about, in other words, I'm going to think about, I'm going to concern myself with, I'm going to be in constant relationship with my Lord and my God, and let Him take care of all this other nonsense, all this other stuff. Now, I think that's a pretty good lesson for us right now in the time that we're living. I don't know how much more time we have on this earth. The Lord may wrap things up quickly, or there may be multi-generations still to come before He does. But what I do know, like Jesus at the age of 12, is that I need to be about my Father's business and let Him take care of my six. Let Him take care of my back. And my life will be much simpler and much more contented and peaceful. When I take my eyes off the Lord, it gets bad. Remember Peter in the water, walking on the water, coming to Jesus, took his eyes off, and boy, he started worrying about the water. That's what happens to us. And we do this in our lives, where we're strong in faith, walking on the water, and then we take our eyes off the Lord, and we're looking at the water, and we start to sink. But you know what? Jesus is always there to save us. Take this lesson with you today. God bless you. We'll see you next time.